What's going on, fragrance family? It's your man Gator, better known as the novice nose out here in these fragrance streets. And today I'm coming to you guys with a follow-up review of a fragrance that I did an unboxing for a few days ago. Now, the fragrance in question is this one. This is Alharamain's Amber Oud Aqua Dubai. So let me go ahead and get this in frame here. There we go. Oh, it was focused and then it stopped. There we go. So this is Haramain's Amber Oud Aqua Dubai. This one has been getting a little bit of momentum here in the fragrance community, specifically because of the DNA that is purportedly inspired by, which of course is from the house that shall not be named, their fragrance Imagination. Now, when I first did the unboxing on this particular fragrance, I mentioned that you can definitely see the resemblance between the two fragrances. Now, when I did the initial breakdown of the fragrance, I went into the notes that I could find online for it. And let me go back into those notes here. So the notes on the Aqua Dubai are at the top. You've got bergamot, green notes, and mandarin orange. That's your top. In your mid notes, you have melon, pineapple, amber, and black currant. And then in the base, you have musk, vanilla, goblinum, and petitgrain. So those notes are nothing like the notes that you get from Imagination. Imagination has Tunisian neroli, and it has Sicilian cinnamon, and it has ginger. It's a very high class listing of ingredients for that particular fragrance, but it doesn't have anything as far as like notes wise that resembles what you see in this particular note breakdown for this particular fragrance. Now, as I mentioned in that video, green notes could be anything, and they may be sneaking in neroli into what they're considering green notes in this particular fragrance, and I actually think that they are after further review of the fragrance. So now that I got that out of the way, it performed the way that I thought, or the way that I've heard that the Haramain Amber Oud fragrances perform. This one actually stayed on skin for about 6 hours here, altogether maybe 6 to 7 hours, and the boisterousness of it, where it was projecting and everything, kind of lasted for the first maybe 2 to 3 hours at the max. So when we talk about performance, we have to kind of go back to the notes in here again, because they do play a factor in what the performance that I got out of this fragrance is. After wearing this particular fragrance, it starts out, it opens up like Imagination. It's got kind of a soapiness, a cleanness to this particular fragrance. And let me do a little bit of an open up spray for it right quick. So, and I love the atomizer. I love the bottle in general. The presentation is beautiful, man. I love it. So you get that opening that really does resemble Imagination and really does mimic Imagination, with the exception of a very important note in Imagination, and that's the black tea. This one does not have the tea note in it, and because it doesn't have that tea note, it definitively does not have the warmth that Imagination has. Now, this one on its own actually opens up as kind of like a little bit more powerful, and I said harsh initially on my breakdown, but it is coming across a lot more powerful, but it comes across a lot more woody too. And I think I did say then, this one seems like a more woody type of interpretation of the Imagination DNA. And like I mentioned in the Mystic Dream video, it seems like all of these particular fragrances have a tendency, at least when they're going after that Imagination DNA, have a tendency to go too far in one direction and not far enough in some of the other directions. This one really leans into the citricness and the woodiness of imagination, but it does not lean into the tea. And that's really important because that black tea note is kind of what makes imagination. This one, like I said, leans into the wood, and you distinctly pick up petitgrain very early into the dry down in this particular fragrance. And this is, like I said, I just read that off of here. That petitgrain definitely bubbles up here, and whatever they're using is green notes, and there may be neroli in there because I do pick up, it smells like a neroli that's kind of peeking through that blast of harsh citrusness that you get in there. And now when I say harsh citrusness, I don't mean like clubbed in a weed citrus where it smells like lemon cleaner, not that type of citrus. What I mean is that it's kind of almost like it's a more potent abrasive type of citrus, and it's almost like it mimics the way that it's presented in here. It's almost like it mimics that ginger note that you have when you first spray on imagination. So you're getting it. Now, it's not unpleasant. It's actually really nice because it goes a long way to mimic the vibe of imagination. And I'm going to state that word again, the vibe of imagination. This one actually does have the vibe, especially in the first hour or so, of imagination. It takes on a lot of those imagination characteristics. It's soapy, it's clean, it doesn't have the it's got a zinginess to it. It doesn't have the warmth of imagination though. But this is where I think the division line, that Mendoza line, separates this one from imagination and kind of categorizes itself as its own fragrance. When you get down into that dry down, you do kind of slightly pick up that melon in there and a little, just a tad bit of the vanilla in the background. And I think they were trying to use the vanilla to warm this particular fragrance up. It didn't work all that much. But what you get with this particular fragrance that you don't get with imagination is kind of an overdose of a more invigorating type of vibe. While imagination has zinginess and it is soapy and clean, this one is one that wakes you up. This is one, when you put it on and you're walking, it does waft up, and it's an energizing type of vibe that you get from this. It's not as I would say deep as imagination is, as far as, you know, the way that those fragrances play together. But what it does do, like I said, is give you a more invigorating and more masculine version of that imagination DNA. And yes, it does, with the woodiness in here, with the petitgrain in here, it definitely gives you a more masculine leaning version of that imagination DNA. So if you're into something that is a little bit more bold when it comes to, you know, the imagination type DNA, then this would be right up your alley. It's better at that aspect of imagination than any of the other inspired buys that, you know, I've dealt with. Like I said, it performs, stay on for about 5 hours. I will say, spraying it on clothes, I was getting whiffs a lot longer. I would say this probably lasts a good 4 or 5 hours on clothes. As a matter of fact, I just had to smell the shirt just now. It's still there, and I didn't refresh in these particular areas right here of the particular fragrance. So I would give it maybe 6 to 7 hours on clothes, and I guarantee when I take this particular shirt off and throw it in laundry, when I pull laundry out, it'll be there. So it does have lasting power on clothes. On skin, it like I said, lasts for about 5 hours, but I will say maybe about hour 3 to 4 you start getting into that development of the melon. You start getting more of that melon in there, and then after a while the petitgrain starts to kind of really diminish, because the petitgrain actually seems to be what's carrying it for a while. that petitgrain is kind of mimicking what the neroli does in the imagination. So it kind of carries it for a minute, or the cinnamon and neroli, I should say. It kind of carries it for a minute, and by the time it fizzles out and you're left with that kind of, you know, melon, subtle sweet vanillish type of scent, you're already like 6 to 7 hours in. So by that time, it's time to re-up and refresh anyway. Great buy? Yeah, I think it is. I think especially if you're looking for something that's an alternative to imagination. This is about 80% imagination. It's about 80%. But I think that it is, on its own merit, a damn good fragrance to go ahead and invest in. I think if you're looking for something that's going to be citric, it's going to be woody, it's going to be boisterous, it's going to be invigorating, then this is the one that you want to go with. I think it's good for a hot environment here. I don't think it's going to perform that well in winter, but I think that for the fall, it would definitely still be a valid option to use. And of course, I think it's going to shine in spring and in summer. I still give this right now a good 8 to 8.5 as far as fragrances goes. And I feel like this is actually a great alternative to imagination as well. They're basically going in the same direction, but they travel down different roads. That's all I got right now, man. Let me know if you've had a chance to get your nose on this one, and make sure that you like the video, subscribe to the channel, share the video with someone you know that loves fragrance. That's all I got, man. This is gonna be in my rotation for the remainder of the summer. This is really, really good, and I'm gonna probably use this more in the summer than I will my actual imagination. Until then, guys, peace out.